Jack Hill's ship landed on Zyphora with a soft thrum, the alien landscape stretching endlessly under two pale suns. The air was thin but breathable, tinged with the metallic scent of the planet's strange minerals. Jack, a tall and steady man, stepped out first, followed by Sophie and Tom. Their boots crunched over the red and gray soil, leaving shallow impressions behind. They had been briefed thoroughly before arrival. Zyphora was dangerous not just for its harsh climate but for its deadliest predator, the Lurvax. Jack adjusted his pack, glancing at the towering cliffs in the distance. He could feel a mixture of excitement and caution. He knew the Lurvax was legendary for killing instantly, yet curiosity and human courage drove him forward. Sophie, shorter and quick-minded, scanned the horizon, her hand hovering near her equipment. "Jack, sensors are picking up movement in that valley," she said, pointing toward a shadow that flickered across the cracked terrain. Tom, ever calm and practical, checked their instruments and nodded. "Could be the Lurvax," he said quietly. The name alone made them tense. Even alien scientists spoke of it with fear. The creature was enormous, with thick scales, venom-filled fangs, and glowing eyes that could hypnotize prey. Most species avoided it entirely, those who faced it rarely survived. Yet Jack felt no fear. He had studied countless dangerous species on other planets, relying on observation, intelligence, and calm decision-making to survive. They approached the valley slowly, boots moving carefully over jagged rocks. Jack's eyes scanned for signs, footprints, broken branches, and other subtle clues the Lurvax might leave. Sophie adjusted her visor, picking up thermal readings. A faint heat signature moved ahead, shifting against the cold ground. Tom signaled them to stop. The shadow had stopped moving as well. Silence fell over the group. Only the faint wind whispered across the alien rocks. Jack crouched slightly, examining the soil. He could see large claw marks and faint drag lines. The creature had passed through recently. He looked at Sophie and Tom. "This is it. Stay alert," he said, his voice calm but firm. From the shadows, the Lurvax emerged slowly, a massive shape coiling around the rocks. Its scales shimmered in strange colors under the alien suns, and its eyes glowed with a dangerous intensity. Its fangs dripped with neon-green venom. The aliens who had warned them had not exaggerated. This was the deadliest predator on Zyphora. Yet Jack did not flinch. He studied the creature carefully, noting its movements, its breathing, the way its tail shifted. He had faced danger before, and he knew fear alone could be more deadly than any predator. Sophie and Tom tensed behind him, but Jack's calm presence seemed to steady them. Observation was their first tool. Jack pulled out a small scanner, directing it toward the Lurvax. The device emitted soft hums, reading the creature's heart rate, venom levels, and muscular tension. Sophie recorded the readings, her hands steady despite the creature's threatening presence. Tom adjusted their position, ensuring they had a clear path to retreat if necessary. The Lurvax hissed, its tail snapping against the rocks, sending small stones tumbling down the valley. Jack held his ground. He moved slowly, carefully studying its fangs, its scales, and the way the muscles shifted under its skin. He knew understanding the creature was the key to surviving it. Then the Lurvax lunged suddenly. His speed was incredible. Jack's heart remained steady, his movements precise. He dodged, barely moving out of the way, allowing Sophie and Tom to adjust their positions. The creature hissed and circled them, testing, watching. Jack realized that aggression alone would not subdue it. He needed strategy. He observed its behavior, noting that it favored sudden strikes and relied on venom to incapacitate prey. Human intelligence could anticipate patterns. Patience, observation, and careful movements were their best tools. The Lurvax paused, head tilting as if studying the humans, curious about their behavior. This was unusual. The predator rarely hesitated with prey. Jack smiled faintly, recognizing the opening. Using his scanner and a series of gestures to Sophie and Tom, Jack signaled a slow, coordinated approach. They would not attack blindly. Instead, they would observe, wait for the right moment, and act decisively. The Lurvax hissed, muscles coiling. Jack's calm demeanor seemed to affect the creature slightly. He stepped closer, making no sudden movements, eyes on its glowing fangs. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small, reinforced containment tool. Sophie and Tom mirrored his actions, ready to assist but not to provoke. They respected the danger while relying on human ingenuity to guide them. The creature struck again, faster this time. Jack moved with precision, sidestepping while keeping the Lurvax in view. Sophie adjusted her scanner, capturing data, while Tom prepared a restraining device. Jack made the decision quickly. He used a distraction method, a small, reflective light from his equipment, to divert the Lurvax's attention. The creature's glowing eyes flickered as it followed the light. At that moment, Jack lunged with a reinforced pole, carefully pinning the creature's head without harming it immediately. The Lurvax thrashed but was momentarily immobilized. His careful planning and quick action had created a window to observe and act safely. Jack knelt near the creature, examining the venom glands, the sharp teeth, and the strange musculature that gave it such incredible strength. Sophie recorded everything, her eyes wide with fascination. Tom carefully monitored the creature's reactions. They were scientists, but survival depended on understanding the predator and respecting its danger. Jack took a deep breath. He had survived countless encounters with dangerous creatures, but this was the deadliest predator on an alien planet. Yet he remained calm, relying on human intelligence, careful observation, and courage. After a few tense minutes, Jack made a decision. He carefully harvested a small portion of the creature, a piece that could be studied and, if necessary, consumed for analysis. Sophie watched closely, ready to assist. Tom monitored the environment, ensuring no sudden threats from the surroundings. The Lurvax hissed but remained restrained, its eyes glowing with curiosity and irritation. Jack smiled faintly. This was the edge of human adaptability. No other species had dared to approach this creature safely, and humans had done it through intelligence, patience, and courage, not brute strength. Jack stood still for a long moment after studying the Lurvax. The creature was dangerous, wounded, and growing more restless. The alien observers, watching from high platforms and hidden sensors, expected the humans to retreat. On Zyphora, no species stayed near a Lurvax once it was threatened. But Jack did not step back. His face remained calm, his breathing slow. He knew the creature could not be left alive in this state. If it escaped, it would attack again, possibly killing others. Ending its life quickly and carefully was the safest choice. Sophie looked at Jack, reading his expression. She understood his decision without words. Tom tightened his grip on the control device, ready to assist. Jack moved forward with slow, steady steps. He adjusted his position, keeping clear of the venomous fangs and the snapping tail. The Lurvax hissed loudly, its glowing venom dripping onto the rocks, burning small holes where it landed. The sound echoed across the valley, and the alien watchers trembled. To them, this creature was death itself. Jack acted with precision. Using a reinforced blade designed for extreme environments, he struck once, clean and exact, targeting a vital point he had already identified. The movement was fast but controlled. The Lurvax shuddered, let out a final low sound, and then went still. The ground vibrated briefly, then became quiet. Dust settled around the body. The deadliest creature on Zyphora no longer moved. A deep silence followed. High above, the aliens stared in shock. Many of them had never seen a Lurvax killed before. Entire groups had been wiped out by one. Some aliens stepped back from their viewing screens, their bodies trembling. Others leaned closer, unable to believe what they had just seen. A human had killed the creature without panic, without chaos, and without advanced weapons. Just planning, observation, and calm action. Jack lowered his blade and took a slow breath. He did not celebrate. He showed no pride or excitement. To him, this was part of survival and study. Sophie and Tom approached carefully. Sophie scanned the creature one last time to confirm it was dead. Tom checked the surroundings to ensure no other threats were near. When it was clear they were safe, Jack nodded once. "Now we learn," he said quietly. The alien observers whispered among themselves. Learning from a Lurvax was unthinkable to them. The creature was avoided, feared, and left alone. No one studied it up close. No one touched it. Yet the humans moved closer without fear. Jack knelt beside the body. Even in death, the Lurvax looked terrifying. Its teeth were long and sharp, its scales thick and rough, its venom sac still glowing faintly. Jack carefully removed his gloves and replaced them with special protective ones. He explained each step calmly to Sophie and Tom, speaking clearly and slowly. He wanted them to understand every decision. He selected a small section of muscle far from the venom glands. He cut carefully, avoiding any contamination. The piece was no larger than his palm. Sophie watched closely, recording data, her eyes wide with focus. Tom monitored toxin levels, calling out numbers as they changed. The alien scientists listening through translators were frozen in disbelief. Humans were not just killing the Lurvax. They were preparing to eat it. Jack placed the sample into a small field kit. He applied neutralizing agents, heat, and chemical binders, using methods humans had developed over centuries of dealing with poison on Earth and beyond. Snakes, spiders, toxic fish, dangerous plants, humans had faced them all. This was no different. Dangerous, yes. Impossible, no. The aliens whispered louder now. Some thought the human was insane. Others believed it was a ritual. A few feared this was an act of dominance meant to scare them. None of them could understand the truth. Humans learned by testing, by measuring risk, and by trusting their knowledge. When the preparation was complete, Jack looked at the small portion in his hand. Sophie swallowed hard. Tom watched carefully, ready to react if something went wrong. Jack showed no fear. His heart rate was steady. His hands did not shake. He took a small bite. The aliens gasped. Sensors spiked across the observation stations. Some aliens turned away, unable to watch. Others stared, frozen. To them, eating the Lurvax was worse than death. It was madness. Jack chewed slowly, paying attention to taste, texture, and his body's response. It was tough, bitter, and strange, but not unbearable. He swallowed and waited. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Sophie watched the toxin readings drop steadily. Tom compared the data with human biological limits. Everything stayed within safe ranges. Jack smiled slightly. It's stable, he said. Unpleasant but safe. The shock among the aliens grew deeper. The Lurvax venom could melt alien tissue in seconds. It stopped hearts. It destroyed nervous systems. And yet the humans stood there calmly, alive, unharmed. Jack took another small bite only to confirm the results. Then he sealed the rest of the sample. He had proven his point. Humans were not fearless because they ignored danger. They were fearless because they understood it. The alien leaders began sending urgent messages to one another. This changed everything. Humans were not just explorers. They were survivors on a level few species could match. They faced danger directly, studied it, and even turned it into nourishment when needed. Sophie finally let out a breath she had been holding. "You always do this," she said softly. "Turn the impossible into a report." Jack chuckled quietly. "Someone has to." Tom shook his head, half amazed, half impressed. "No one back home is going to believe this without video." Jack looked up at the alien platforms and sensors. He knew they were watching. He did not raise his arms or speak loudly. He simply nodded once, a calm human gesture. Not a threat. Not a boast. Just acknowledgement. The message was clear. Humans could survive where others could not. The aliens watched as Jack carefully packed the remaining samples and gave a final respectful look to the fallen creature. He did not mock it or treat it as nothing. He understood its power. Respect was part of human survival too. As the team prepared to move on, the whispers among the aliens did not stop. They spoke of resilience, of strange strength, of a species that could face death and remain calm. Fear slowly shifted into awe. Jack walked forward under the alien sky, his steps steady. He had not come to prove dominance. He had come to learn. But in doing so he had shown something far greater. Humans did not just endure the universe. They adapted to it. The Scorpius Rex lay motionless on the jagged ground. The harsh environment of Virilia had finally claimed it. Its enormous tail no longer twitched, and the spikes along its back were still. Tom approached slowly, his boots crunching over the purple sand. Even though the creature was dead, the aliens behind him stayed far away, hovering nervously, their pale skin flickering in shades of fear and disbelief. "It's dead?" whispered Lyra, her voice trembling. She floated closer, her eyes wide as she looked at the massive form. "After everything it has done, after all the lives it has taken, and it's just gone?" Tom nodded calmly, crouching a short distance from the creature. "Yes. The environment did what even hunters could not. I just need to study it carefully," he said. He lifted his scanner and ran it across the creature's scales, noting the temperature, texture, and composition. The machine beeped softly, recording every detail. To Tom this was a golden opportunity. Even in death, the creature could teach him more than any living encounter could. The aliens murmured among themselves, their voices high and nervous. "It's dangerous even now," Keel said, pointing at the venomous spikes along the tail. "Even in death, one scratch could kill a weaker species. How can it survive handling it?" Tom looked at him with a calm smile. "I'll be careful. I know what I'm doing." He moved closer, avoiding the spikes, noting that even the venom had dried slightly in the cool air. "Humans have ways of dealing with dangerous creatures," he said softly, almost to himself. "We evolved on a planet full of hazards. What seems impossible to others, we call survival." He pulled a small portable tool from his pack. It was a combination of a scanner and a cutter, designed to safely take samples without exposing the user to harm. Carefully, he began to extract a small section of the creature's outer shell. The aliens floated at a distance, their long fingers twitching nervously. Lyra gasped when she saw the motion. "No. Don't touch it. You could die even now." Tom looked at her and shook his head. "I'm not reckless," he said. "I understand the risks. Observation and careful handling keep me safe. You don't need to worry." He smiled faintly, but the aliens were still pale with fear. Humans were strange, unpredictable, and brave in ways they could not understand. Once he had safely removed the sample, Tom set it aside and looked at the creature again. It was massive, far larger than any predator he had studied before. Its claws were the size of small vehicles, its tail longer than a human building, and its scales were tough enough to deflect almost any weapon. And yet it was dead. Nothing could survive everything, except the clever and adaptable. Tom crouched beside it and studied its mouth, noting the arrangement of its teeth. Even in death, its jaws were impressive, designed to crush and tear. He made careful notes in his device, recording every detail. The aliens watched him, still frozen in shock. To them, the idea of approaching this creature so closely, handling it, and even thinking about consuming it was unthinkable. "I need to test something," Tom said quietly. He unpacked a small cooking tool designed to neutralize dangerous toxins. The alien stiffened immediately. "Wait," Lyra cried. You're not going to." Tom cut her off gently. "I'm not careless. I just need to understand how humans can process dangerous life forms safely. It's part of my research." He worked slowly, carefully heating a small portion of the creature, neutralizing the venom. The aliens stared in disbelief. Finally, Tom took a small bite. Just a tiny piece. He chewed slowly, savoring the texture while continuing to scan the creature for any remaining hazards. The aliens gasped, their entire bodies flickering with alarm. "Impossible," Keel shouted. "It's toxic. It should kill him instantly. How is he still alive?" Tom smiled faintly, unfazed. "Humans are different," he said. "We evolved to survive. We study, we adapt, and we endure. That's how we live." The aliens whispered among themselves, fear and admiration mixing in their voices. Lyra floated closer, still trembling. You're eating it? And you're alive?" Tom nodded. "Yes. The danger is real, but it can be managed. Understanding it is key. Fear doesn't help, knowledge does." He took another small bite, careful and precise, scanning the environment and the creature's body. Even in death, it had taught him more than any other being could. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in deep purples and oranges. The wind carried the faint smell of the creature, but Tom barely noticed. He was focused entirely on the process, observing, recording, and learning. Humans had survived much worse than any alien predator could imagine. They had crossed deserts, oceans, and mountains filled with dangers, and they had done so by thinking, not panicking. The aliens remained frozen, watching, whispering in disbelief. "It's impossible," one muttered. "No being should survive that." Tom set down his tools and straightened up, brushing the dust from his clothes. "I'm fine," he said. "And now we understand it better." He gestured to the alien observers. "You don't need to fear everything that seems dangerous. Knowledge and careful action matter more than strength alone." The aliens exchanged glances. They had studied survival for centuries, but humans were something else entirely. Where they saw risk, humans saw opportunity. Where they saw death, humans saw a lesson. And even facing a creature as deadly as the Scorpius Rex, Tom had demonstrated exactly why humans endured where other species often failed. As night fell over the jagged cliffs, Tom continued his work. He took careful samples, recording every detail of the creature's body, noting the areas of dried venom, the structure of its tail, and the patterns of its claws. The aliens watched from a distance, still pale with fear but beginning to feel a strange sense of awe. Humans were fragile in appearance, yes, but they carried within them a resilience the galaxy had rarely seen. Finally, Tom packed away his tools and straightened. He looked down at the massive creature one last time. "You taught me a lot," he said quietly. "And I survived." He turned to the aliens, smiling faintly. "Humans endure. We face danger. We survive. That's what makes us human." The aliens whispered among themselves, some still shocked, some beginning to understand. Tom had done what none of them had thought possible. He had approached the deadliest creature on the planet, handled it safely, and even eaten it without harm. And in doing so, he had shown that humans were not just another species, they were something extraordinary. The night deepened, the twin moons casting pale light over the rocky terrain. Tom looked at the aliens who were still staring and said softly, "Fear is natural, but it can be overcome. Knowledge, preparation, and patience, that is how we survive." The aliens floated silently, awestruck. They had witnessed the impossible. And as Tom began his careful journey back to the ship, carrying samples and data, they understood something profound. Humans were not just survivors. They were the ultimate example of adaptability and courage, capable of facing what the galaxy had deemed unbeatable, and living. Tom stepped back from the remains of the Scorpius Rex, brushing dust from his sleeves. The aliens hovered around him, their faces, or what passed for faces, pale and flickering with colors of shock and confusion. They had studied life forms far more dangerous than humans, yet nothing had prepared them for what they had just witnessed. How could one human approach the deadliest creature on this planet, handle it, and even take a small bite, and live? Lyra floated closer, her voice trembling. "We need to run a scan," she said. Her hands moved quickly, producing a device that hovered over Tom. It emitted a soft hum as the medical scanners began to analyze every part of his body. The readings came back almost immediately, showing something the aliens could hardly believe. His body had neutralized the creature's venom almost instantly. There were no traces of toxins in his blood. Every cell, every organ, seemed to resist the dangerous compounds that had killed countless other species. The aliens whispered among themselves, barely able to process what they were seeing. "This human survived?" muttered Keel. His skin flickered pale gray, the color of disbelief. "It shouldn't be possible. No being should survive that. Not even on a planet with a forgiving environment." Tom shrugged, smiling faintly as if explaining something obvious. "On Earth," he said softly, "we have a saying, we eat what scares us and live to tell the tale." The aliens froze. The concept was foreign, almost shocking. To them, survival was a combination of strength, defense, and avoidance. The idea that a species could thrive by confronting danger, by understanding it, and even using it as nourishment, was almost incomprehensible. Lyra's hands shook slightly as she recorded the scanner readings. The data streamed directly into the Council's database. Notes were taken furiously, calculations adjusted, hypotheses rewritten. They had studied resilience, adaptation, and survival strategies for centuries, yet humans seemed to break every expectation. Every biological limit they thought existed for survival was being challenged by this one human. Keel shook his head. "We have charts, data, simulations. Nothing predicted this. No species could process toxins that quickly. No species could survive the venom, even partially. How did he do it?" Tom leaned back slightly, keeping his eyes on the distant horizon. "It's not magic," he said quietly. "It's biology. Humans evolved on a planet that can kill you in countless ways. We had to learn to survive. We developed resistance to poisons, disease, extreme temperatures, and countless hazards. Survival isn't just about avoiding danger, it's about understanding it and facing it." The aliens exchanged uncertain glances. They had faced lethal environments, some of the deadliest predators in the galaxy, and even extreme natural disasters. Yet the idea that one species could adapt to survive what others could not shook them. Humans were not just survivors, they were exceptional in ways the aliens had never considered. Lyra floated closer, scanning Tom again, this time with an almost reverent attention. She noticed how his skin remained healthy, unmarked, completely unaffected by toxins that should have caused illness or death. Every readout on her device was normal, within safe human parameters. It defies every principle we know," she said softly. "How can a body neutralize such venom so quickly? How can one survive what should be fatal?" Tom smiled, his tone calm, almost matter-of-fact. "It's simple. Our bodies are designed to adapt. We face danger every day. From birth, humans encounter threats, and our species learned how to survive. We study, we observe, we adapt, and then we endure. What you see isn't luck, it's evolution and preparation combined." The aliens floated back slightly, giving him space, still whispering in disbelief. "Every simulation failed to predict this," muttered another council member. "Every algorithm, every genetic model, nothing showed that a human could survive exposure to Scorpius Rex's toxins. We have been wrong about humans all along." Tom looked at them thoughtfully. "I know it seems strange," he said gently, "but on Earth we don't avoid challenges because they are dangerous. We face them. We learn from them. And most importantly, we prepare for them. Adaptation isn't just survival, it's understanding the danger and responding in the best way possible." The council recorded every word, every reading, every observation. The room buzzed with a mixture of shock, admiration, and confusion. Humans were small, fragile compared to many alien species, yet they carried a resilience that was nearly unmatched. The Scorpius Rex had been a test, intentional or not, and Tom had passed with ease. "Perhaps we underestimated them," Lyra whispered. "Perhaps humans are far more extraordinary than we ever believed." Tom nodded, still calm. "Most species survive by avoiding threats. Humans survive by facing them. We don't always win, but we endure, and enduring is what matters." The aliens looked at him again, studying not just his body but his demeanor. There was no panic, no fear, no recklessness, only calm observation, intelligence, and focus. That combination made humans dangerous in a way no alien predator could ever be. The council members, once skeptical, now whispered among themselves, realizing the implications. Humans could survive environments and threats that other species would avoid at all costs. Medical scans continued to show normal readings. Every heartbeat, every cell, every system functioned perfectly, unaffected by the deadly creature's toxins. The aliens could hardly comprehend it. They had observed predators, toxins, diseases, and hazards far less dangerous than this, and yet none had shown resilience like this. Tom's body was a marvel, a living example of adaptability and evolution in action. Keel floated closer, still uneasy but curious. "So, it's not magic," he said slowly. "It's biology? His body just neutralizes toxins." Tom nodded. "Exactly. That's why humans survive. We face dangers that other species run from. We study, we prepare, and we endure. The things you fear most are things we learn to live with. That's our strength." Lyra floated a bit closer, scanning the surroundings as well as Tom. "It's incredible. Not just surviving the creature but surviving it with calm, and using the experience to learn. Humans don't just live, they adapt in ways we cannot even predict." Tom smiled faintly. "Adaptation is the key. Survival is not about avoiding risk. It's about understanding risk, controlling it, and learning from it. That's how humans thrived on Earth for millions of years. And it's how we survive in space as well." The aliens whispered among themselves. They began comparing notes, simulations, and predictions, only to find that none could account for this level of resilience. Humans had rewritten their understanding of biology, adaptability, and survival in mere moments. The idea that a small, seemingly fragile species could endure the deadliest predators and toxins left them stunned. The council continued their observation, recording every reading, every word, and every gesture. Tom's calmness, intelligence, and adaptability were as impressive as the biological resilience displayed by his body. The aliens realized that they had misjudged humanity. They were not just another species, they were a remarkable example of evolution, courage, and endurance. As the night fell over the jagged cliffs of Virelia, the twin moons casting pale light across the rocks, Tom stood quietly. The aliens hovered nearby, still pale, still awed. Every observation, every scan confirmed the impossible. Humans were not just survivors, they were extraordinary survivors. Finally, Lyra spoke, her voice a mix of respect and disbelief. "We have underestimated your species, Tom. We did not know humans could be like this." Tom shrugged gently, smiling. "It's not about underestimating or overestimating. Humans face danger, we learn from it, and we survive. That's all. The rest comes naturally." The council took notes furiously, updating databases and rewriting theories. Humans were no longer just another species to observe, they were now recognized as a species capable of surviving what the galaxy considered impossible. And as Tom turned to look at the distant horizon, calm and collected, the aliens realized a truth they could not ignore. Humans were naturally resilient, adaptive, and capable of enduring what no other species could. In the face of fear, humans did not cower, they learned, they adapted, and they lived. The room was silent for a moment, filled only with the hum of the medical scanners and the soft breeze from Virelia's winds. Tom's eyes scanned the alien observers, his expression calm, almost gentle. "Fear is natural," he said softly, "but knowledge and preparation are stronger. That's why humans survive." The aliens, still stunned, finally nodded. They had witnessed something extraordinary. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not weak. Humans were capable of surviving what the galaxy had declared impossible. And in that realization, a new respect, and perhaps even a hint of awe, settled among them. Tom looked at the dead creature one last time, then back at the aliens. "We endure," he said quietly. "That's what makes us human." The alien council had gathered in the high chamber of the research vessel, its walls shimmering with soft light and filled with screens displaying Tom's scans, notes and live recordings from Virelia. The data flowed rapidly, numbers, patterns and biological readings, all pointing to a single undeniable conclusion. Humans were unlike any species they had studied. Every member of the council leaned forward, their elongated faces pale with awe, trying to comprehend what they had just witnessed. This cannot be correct," muttered one of the senior members, a tall being named Vela. Her skin glowed faintly pink, the color of disbelief. "The toxicity levels, the exposure time, the metabolic response, it defies all known biology. No species should survive this. No species should endure what this human endured." Keel floated beside her, his long fingers twitching nervously as he scanned the data again. "We have simulated hundreds of scenarios, tested dozens of survival models, and nothing matches this. Humans, they are extraordinary." His voice faltered slightly as if saying the words aloud made them harder to believe. Tom stood quietly in the middle of the chamber, calm as always. His body had already been scanned, every toxin neutralized, every cell functioning perfectly. He observed the council, noting their awe and confusion. Unlike many species, humans did not survive by force, by armor, or by instinct alone. They survived through observation, adaptation, and clever action. That was their greatest strength. Lyra, still pale from the shock of seeing Tom handle the Scorpius Rex, floated closer. We underestimated your species," she admitted. Her voice was quiet, almost reverent. "We thought humans were fragile. We thought your biology would fail in extreme conditions. But it doesn't. It adapts. It endures. You survive where others would perish." Tom smiled faintly, his hands resting lightly at his sides. "Humans evolved in a world full of dangers," he said calmly. "We faced storms, predators, poisons, disease and each other. Surviving taught us to observe, to prepare, and to adapt. It's not luck. It's biology and intelligence combined." The council members exchanged glances, their skin flickering in colors that mirrored confusion, awe, and cautious admiration. "So," Vela said slowly, "you are telling us that humans do not just survive by chance but by design? By evolution, yes, but also by conscious strategy?" Tom nodded. "Exactly. Danger teaches humans. We study it, learn from it, and endure. That is why we survive environments and threats that other species fear. That is why I survived Virelia's deadliest creature." Keel's long fingers twitched again as he gestured toward the screens displaying the Scorpius Rex's remains and Tom's careful handling. "And this," he said, "this act alone, approaching, observing, and even consuming part of the creature, demonstrates resilience far beyond what we expected. We thought humans were weak. We were wrong." The council murmured in agreement. Members began typing rapidly on their floating devices, updating records, recalculating classifications, and revising centuries-old assumptions. Humans were no longer to be considered an ordinary species. They were extreme survivors. Their biology, intelligence, and courage warranted a new category entirely. Lyra floated closer to Tom, her voice soft. "You've shown us something remarkable," she said. "It's not just survival, it's understanding danger and using that understanding to endure. No other species does this so consistently." Tom looked at her, his expression calm, almost gentle. "That's what humans do. We don't conquer through sheer strength. We endure, adapt, and learn. That is how we survive and that is how we thrive." The council's leader, a being named Soren, raised a hand to signal attention. "It is clear," he said, his voice steady, echoing through the chamber. "Based on the observations, data, and first-hand accounts, we officially reclassify humans as extreme adaptive survivors. Their ability to endure threats, survive lethal exposure, and adapt biologically is unmatched in our records. This species must be studied with respect, not assumption." A silence fell over the chamber. The weight of the declaration hung in the air. Every alien present felt a shift in perspective. Humans were no longer just another life form in the galaxy, they were something remarkable. A small, seemingly fragile species capable of extraordinary resilience, clever adaptation, and fearless endurance. Tom's eyes scanned the council, noticing their awe and newfound respect. For centuries, humans had been underestimated by the galaxy. Many species had assumed they were weak, ill-equipped for survival outside Earth, and incapable of facing extreme danger. Yet here he stood, calm, unharmed, and fully aware of the implications of his actions. The alien council members spoke among themselves quietly, discussing protocols, simulations, and future research. They considered the broader implications. Humans could explore dangerous planets, survive predators considered lethal, and adapt in ways no algorithm had predicted. Humans were not just survivors, they were models of adaptability. Lyra's gaze returned to Tom. Your actions today will change how the galaxy views humans forever, she said. They will no longer be underestimated. Other species will take note. And perhaps, in time, humans will be sought as allies rather than dismissed as fragile creatures. Tom smiled faintly. Humans survive because we endure, he said softly, almost to himself. It's simple. We face challenges, we learn, and we adapt. That's what makes us who we are. Strength is measured not by size or power, but by the ability to survive when others fail. The aliens continued to record every word, every scan, and every observation. They updated galactic databases, revised survival algorithms, and began drafting treaties that recognized human endurance as a significant asset. The realization was clear: humans had capabilities that no species had fully accounted for, and the galaxy would never view them the same way again. Keel floated closer to Tom, a mixture of awe and disbelief in his tone. So, all of this, the calmness, the observation, the survival, it's all part of your species' nature? Tom nodded. Yes. Humans endure. We don't give up. We learn. We adapt. That is why we survive when others fail. That is why we thrive where others perish. The council murmured again, impressed and astonished. This one human had demonstrated what an entire species could potentially achieve. The example of endurance, intelligence, and adaptability was not just impressive, it was revolutionary. The galaxy had been wrong about humans. They were far stronger, smarter, and more capable than anyone had assumed. Soren, the council leader, finally spoke, his tone measured and firm. Let it be known across the galaxy that humans are not to be underestimated. They are not fragile, nor are they weak. Their resilience, intelligence, and adaptability make them extraordinary. From this day forward, they will be studied, respected, and regarded as extreme adaptive survivors. Tom watched quietly, a small smile on his face. He knew the galaxy would now see humans differently. For centuries, humans had been underestimated, dismissed as weak or fragile. Yet through calmness, intelligence, and endurance, they had proven their worth. And as he looked around the chamber, he could see the shift in the aliens' expressions: awe, respect, and a new understanding of what it meant to survive. Lyra floated closer, her voice soft. You've changed everything, Tom. You've shown the galaxy what humans can do. Your calmness, your courage, it's remarkable. Tom nodded gently. Humans endure, he said. That's what makes all the difference. The chamber was silent for a moment, filled only with the hum of devices and the soft movements of the council members. Then one by one they began nodding, acknowledging the truth of his words. Humans were not just survivors, they were exceptional. Outside, Virelia's twin moons cast silver light over the jagged terrain. The shadows of the cliffs stretched across the rocky landscape, reminding everyone of the creature that had been faced, studied, and survived. Tom had shown the galaxy that endurance, intelligence, and calm observation were the greatest tools for survival, more powerful than strength, speed, or fear. As the council continued their work, recording data and rewriting their understanding of life across the galaxy, Tom stepped back quietly, his task complete. He had survived the deadliest creature, handled its remains, and shown aliens the meaning of human resilience. In that moment, humans were no longer just another species. They were recognized as extraordinary survivors, capable of enduring threats that would destroy almost any other being. And the galaxy would never see them the same way again. Tom looked at the aliens, still awestruck, and smiled faintly. We endure, he said quietly, and that makes all the difference. The aliens watched him, absorbing the truth in his words. Humans were small, seemingly fragile, yet capable of surviving what no one had imagined. That simple statement, endurance, was enough to change the galaxy's understanding forever. From that day forward, humans were no longer underestimated. The Council's records, databases, and protocols reflected the truth. Humanity was extraordinary, resilient, and adaptive. The galaxy had learned a lesson it would never forget. Survival was not just about power. Survival was about enduring. And humans endured like no other.